Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting Propagandacast from the host, Imperial Dane, with your daily dose of strategical and tactical analysis with a bit of history thrown in for good measure. We shall be having a 1 versus 1 right here on Pripyat marches. Was it Pripyat? Well, Russian or Ukrainian pronunciation never was my forte, but hopefully my Eastern European viewers will not quite want to murder me yet. Anyways, a 1 versus 1. We shall be watching in the right hand side corner Stivo fighting for the Soviet Union or rolling out for the 10th Mechanized Corps. Opposing him shall be Xelor. Both players, by the way, have been previously featured here during the Communist 2 close beta cast. Xelor here fighting for the 210th Infantrie Division, preparing to hold the line against the vile Red Horde, as it of course threatens with a breakthrough. And we are seeing here a few conscripts following out there for Stivo. No buildings note here, by the way. He's not building anything from the beginning. I mean, there's some more newer players who do seem to think that the first thing they should do as a Russian player is build something, which is not necessarily the key. Usually what you actually want to do is get a few conscripts up before building anything at all, so you can actually take some territory. We are seeing an MG42 actually out here first for Xelor, using it to capture territory. Of course, in this initial instance, of course, it's considerably safer to do so, but that's not necessarily to say I would just outright recommend doing it like that. Usually want some infantry in first, and there we go, the Grenadiers pop out. Not personally a huge fan of these Grenadier uniforms. They look a bit too bright, a bit too flashy, and somehow a bit too much for Grenadiers, but that's for another time. Pioneers on a much more southern-bound path. More conscripts arriving to support the first conscripts. So far, so good. Northern point here. Note, Stivo is sort of focusing more towards the north, where Xelor is focusing towards the west. Again, it basically follows the contours of this river. Basically, one player tries to get one half of the river, the other tries to get the other half. It's basically, in that sense, a bit like Lowlands, except there's considerably more choke points in it, which makes it a little less fun than Lowlands, to put it mildly. A second MG out here for Xelor. Of course, Xelor looks like he wants to be taking advantage of the choke pointy nature of the map via a swift and brutal application of Schweres MG42. Conscripts hitting up position. Note, he's spreading them out so they can't immediately get suppressed. We also note here one Grenadier already went down. And we do note here that he probably hears something setting up that indicates an MG42. Tries to pull away, but one conscript corps gets caught in the fire as Grenadiers push in to deliver some extra kills, some extra killy goodness. And in fact, gets the conscripts pinned down to the ground. And then it's the second squad's turn, and that's one thing that's been slightly changed about the unit AI in Company Heroes. The MG AIs will actually shift targets for you. So, for example, if there's another one coming in which is a more obvious threat, then your MG crew gunners actually now have the brains to realize, Heinz, yeah, these Russians coming ahead towards us. Perhaps we might want to aim at them now. That is a good idea, Fritz. And now we're seeing a second MG42, so already here, Xelor is trying to gain dominance of the center, which generally tends to be the right approach, because currently the way Pripyat is built up, and I rather hope they do that, make some changes to the map eventually, but if you hold the center, you can very much largely dominate the rest of the map, because pretty much the center also controls the only ways which do not go through the water, and means you have to move frightfully slow. I mean, that doesn't mean you can't do it here, but it doesn't work quite as well as basically just holding the center and just dictating how everybody else ought to move. And we're in fact seeing a very defensive approach here. Clearly this company sent out from the 210th Infantrie Division has been heavily reinforced with machine guns of the heavier kind until something a bit more stalwart can be sent to reinforce. And now we note here that Stivo is basically ignoring the center because he knows, well, I can't do anything there. So instead he switches about to hit the other parts, and of course that also rather means that Xelor is going to very quickly lose his fuel point. Although he's of course going to probably trying up pushing north, and he's doing it again with MGs. It's a very risky approach, very risky endeavor, could easily backfire. And we're so far not seeing any taking up going on here. We're also seeing an MG42 being sent down here. Not really what I would call sensible play. Again, you should be very careful about rushing an MG42, but seems like he's just trying to protect his cutoff point. And problem is, again, there's this thing called true sight, which basically means he can't see them. Again, that's the wonders of true sight. Hide the right place, and you can actually protect yourself. In this case, I think they get enfilade, or is it defilade? Can't remember. Either way, this MG is pretty much poorly placed by Xelor, and again, he can't do anything about it, so that's a bit rubbish for him. You also see some conscripts sneaking up here, hitting the MG in the flank, trying to get off a Molotov. The MG crew, though, was quick to flank and leave, but at the same time, you see these Grenadiers are going left to hold the entire thing. MG42 setting up to protect the northern victory point. More conscripts are pouring in, and of course, again, he knows where the MG is, and again, it simply can't see, again, the wonders of true sight. It allows a clever infantry player to actually sort of outmaneuver these positions if he actually knows how it works, and of course, how your units actually see the terrain. So that's a very nice thing to try and remember as a player, both attacking and defensive, because now you don't just have to take in arcs of fire, but also, line of sight, can actually see what's going on. In this case, it's pretty obvious that Xelor has absolutely no clear idea what he's getting himself into. And that really even further limits the effectiveness of an MG42 on its own. You really can't just send it anymore, because you're much more likely to risk it getting outnumbered and overwhelmed. We do see some Grenadiers rushing in there, though without a light machine gun, which could definitely benefit them. And this northern MG crew continues its voyage towards north, and we're seeing a penal battalion arriving here for Stevo, the Strafniki. And we're seeing a scout count as well, so Special Rifle Command has been chosen right about there. Flamethrower combat units in it, Panzerfaust goes off, but ultimately it won't do enough. The MG simply can't take that thing out either, nor will the Panzerfaust, so there we go. A full retreat right there from Xelor. Again, his defense at the front line was too weak. He's losing the entire south as well. His Grenadiers are trying to do what they can, but it's going to be limited. And of course, all it takes is, of course, the combat units to quickly repair that scout car and quickly rushing towards his American opponent. German opponents, not American. Gott in Himmel. It's not the Cold War yet. Pioneers moving in to support the Grenadiers down south, but again, the north can be short, but very tenuous grasp. And likely will be cut off by Stevo's brave conscript Nikki. And Molotov, and even he runs right through the Molotov fire. That was perhaps less well done. These Grenadiers need to consider vacating the premises. They are down to one man behind a wooden something. Looks like a chest. One's containing fine gilded zucchinis. Now it is empty. Also looks like he's trying to take up Xelor, going for a much more aggressive approach, which of course also is rather also obvious from his build. It's a much more static defense build, but again, he hasn't quite factored in true sight and a lot of all the other fun things in Company of 2, so it rather becomes a bit more difficult for him to pull off than it would have been in Company of Heroes. Of course, he's likely going to either take further up, but that seems quite unlikely unless Xelor seems to have completely lost it, so more likely we will see the support armor corps, an attempt for Panzerstuks and Ostwind Flakpanzer. More combat units there for Stevo. MG taking up a nice position there. We're seeing the penal troops moving in with a flamethrower of their own. They can be upgraded with those. And someone shouts, Bolsheviks! And there we go, the MG opens up. Interesting enough, Stevo has not counted on an MG42 there, where we do see the conscripts quickly roaring up and getting off a Molotov. MG42 forced away. The entire place is on fire. The MG42 is likely in a very bad spot. And looks like Xelor hadn't quite fought that one through. He might even lose it, in which case we could actually see Stevo getting it, because now if a weapons team dies on the retreat, the MG does not vanish. It's actually just dropped, and there we go. In fact, we do see that the MG42 has been dropped there for Stevo to pick up and use against the Fritzes. So that's a problem, to put it mildly. Support armor corps on the way, but again, definite blow right there for Xelor. And not the good kind of blow. There is one, as in punch, not the, yeah. Shh. You naughty persons. And we're immediately seeing here that Stevo's going for the mechanized armor Campanea, going for the assault guns, the tank destroyers, and the Katusha. That's definitely going to endeavour him help. Of course, he's likely figuring again, he's only seen Grenadiers and an MG, so his opponent, of course, is likely going to go for armor, in which case an SU-85 will likely have a better effort. Plus, of course, he can still have some anti-infantry if he goes for the SU-76, and it's pretty much free artillery barrages. Another MG-42 cleared out right here. Again, Xelor's plan is quickly revealing many of its great flaws. as Stevo, of course, pretty much counters it with the swift application of speed and firepower through the scout car, with its 50 caliber on front and the 30 caliber in the rear. A very nasty thing, should not be underestimated. And there we go! Feldwebel Heinz gets off a Panzer fast, but has to watch as most of his other squawk catches on fire before he legs it himself. And the scout car remains to live another day, gains veterans 1, and thus the overdrive ability, which pretty much means you can speed away even faster. Interesting enough, there's no mines from Stevo. He could try and consider some there, but now we are seeing Stevo and the 10th Mechanized Corps largely gaining support on most of the map. The Penal Battalion. I have no idea what just went on with his leg right there. I think he may be possessed by the spirit of Trotsky. Anyways, MG moving up there, needs to be careful. 4-6 men now. Ivan kommt. There we go, the MG42 sets up, opens up the penal troops and gets the Strafniki. Grenadiers moving in from the north, conscripts sneaking about there, and we do see an Su-76 assault gun. Works alright against lighter vehicles and some medium armor, though you really shouldn't expect to take it on its own. Also functions quite nicely as self-propelled artillery, and that's likely what we're going to see use it as now after it crashes a bit of the bridge. Rifle grenade there, killing one poor conscript. Scout car and lots of German troops moving in there. Finally gets it. At the same time that we see up here in the north, the MG is getting bombarded by the Su-76. And again, note that barrage is free and can very much be used to tear up German assaults or defences. It's a very nasty little thing, and only costs 200 manpower and 45 munition and fuel, I mean. So of course it's going to be vulnerable to, for example, German troops and all that. But at the same time, if you handle it correctly, it can do a lot of that. And we see an Osten Flakpanzer has been sent in. Clearly some support is being sent in from the nearby, 7th Panzer Division. Osten Flakpanzer rolling forwards, firing away with a 37mm gun, threatening to end the lives of these conscripts with another of Xelor's MG42s. Xelor really ought to consider that perhaps his strategy had some flaws in. And there we go, the scout car getting a bit stuck in the water. Drive faster, Vasily, drive! But I can't! These Americans never decided to board us. This is not a Schwimmwagen. So came the end of the scout car, as the Ostmen tore through the paper-thin armour. And apparently also got the guy with a flamethrower inside it. Just, oh dear, carnage. Fuel cache up north lost to the Su-76M, also known as the Suchka, which basically means little bitch or something like that. Yes, the Russians were not really the most polite of gentlemen. HMT here. We also see that Festung support has been chosen for Xelor, getting the option of calling in the mortar half-track. The enemy is attempting to steal our sector. Also smoke bombs, relief infantry, howitzer, and oh yeah, it's actually time to have a look at Stevo. My apologies. No doctrine from yours. Oh, it is, but it's bugged. Oh well. No, it isn't. He just hasn't chosen anything. Interesting. So no doctrine at all for Stevo. I'm a bit surprised at that. I'm a bit surprised. He's got 3 points. He could easily do with something. Ostwind rolling about. Ostwind. Flakpanzer. One of the many Flakpanzer 4 designs. It was the last one. Also very late in the war. Before that, that was the Wirbelwind, and before that, that was the Möbelwagen. And there we go. We're seeing Guards rather combined, and we're quickly seeing the conscripts hitting the dirt. We also see the Su-85 has arrived, and this Ostwind is in dire straits. That's the 85mm DT or D5 main gun. Just blast through the entire thing. Looks like he did manage to kill one of Stevo's units, but ultimately though, that Ostwind is a lost cause. And already that Su-76 can find another light barrage. Again, note, it costs nothing. Again, there's a cooldown and all that, but again, this is primarily meant to support infantry and assaults and defences. and can do so quite handily. That, of course, can still also work nicely against half-track, scout cars, and if you can get up in numbers, can also do well against German medium armor. Just don't expect them to knock out Panthers and live to tell the tale.
Tank destroyer here.
Su-76, go ahead.
Our PPSHs are here. Now
There we go, PPSH-41s, submachine guns, drum magazine, though usually not loaded to full capacity because the spring inside it actually couldn't handle it. So they only loaded, I mean, a few bullets short of that actually. And then later on they actually shifted it over to stick magazines simply because of that. And I think it also made it a bit too heavy and unwieldy. But MG42 versus MG42. Oh, the irony. But Xelor's actually now getting control of the northern victory points. Well, once more sending an MG42, veterans you won. South, though, is very open. We're already seeing here that Steve-O senses weakness on the Germans and sends something down there to break up the fascists. We also see now the mortar half-track is out as artillery continues to bombard away. And there we go, we see the conscripts up north getting stopped by the MG42. The gunner hiding behind the curtains. Possibly while enjoying a nice bowl of borscht between engagements. Mortar doing what I can here though. Penal troops continuing there, and we do see a small pioneer squad flanking up there with the... Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear! Xelor hadn't clearly thought that one out. Also might have misclicked, but he's likely going to lose that mortar half-track unless he is the luckiest bastard ever. Nope. And the crew flies a bit everywhere. And the MG42, which is likely Xelor's last, is now cleared out. So that was pretty much a very poor move right there from Xelor. Although it looks like Steve hasn't picked this one up. I'm surprised, to be honest. And we see the Katyusha arriving as well. Oh, looks like the Su-76 is actually hitting his own troops by the looks of it. And Pack firing away at the light assault gun. Katyusha rocket truck arriving. Conscript retreating, Grenadiers advancing. Looks like Xelor has got himself some more, but he might lose the Grenadiers. Go up north again, heading to death. Steve-O's conscript become a lot harder to deal with for the infantry. And there we go, rockets flying across the map. Grenadiers on the run. And there we go, we actually see a nice combined arms group right there from Steve-O. Bit of tank destroyer, bit of assault gun, and a bit of rockets. Nasty stuff all in all. Also really nice details on the armour. I can still get lost in that, to be honest. And that's even without the skins. Which some are looking quite impressive from what I'm seeing in different videos and such. And there we go, looks like he secured himself another MG42 sending out there. Nicely done by Steve-O. And another MG42 from Xelor. And some Panzer Grenadiers. So he's finally tacked a bit back, but also enough, he's not really used this building for anything more, which is a bit of a bad move. I mean, you don't want to rush for a building, then only build one unit, and then going, ah, shice, this was actually a bad idea. I should never use this building again, thus actually causing myself a huge loss in resources. I mean, that's just poor thinking, really. And of course, I mean, currently, Steve-O is rather dominating the map through his assault guns. Of course, it's considerably easier to do in Pripyat due to its choke point nature, but even then, I mean, it's not exactly a awful combination, in particular not the way Xelor is currently playing. The Grand Panzer, oh, they hit a mine and the entire squad is lost. Oh dear, that was tragic. And a lot of them just crawling about. In fact, they all are. That's tragic.
Your orders, comrade.
Xelor's tactics are rather failing him brutally and grimly, although he does have a medic bunker up, but they don't really seem to be doing much since most of the patients under their care end up getting killed anyways, or pretty much wiped out, so they won't be getting back at all. And then something... What exploded down there? I don't know. Apparently the conscripts just exploded. I don't know. I have seen it before where someone tries to lay down a mine and then apparently they just set off the mine itself. It's a bug, but it's a very entertaining bug, to be honest. I won't deny it's a very entertaining one, but yeah, it also only seems to be happening for the Russians of all the things, so that's a bit unfortunate. Pushing up here, MG versus MG again, Xelor. I don't really seem to be thinking it fully through. And he might lose the MG42. In fact, there we go. Retreating completely. Panzer Grenadier moving up. Conscripts and Stravniki moving south. And we're in fact now seeing, of course, that Steve was actually having a lot of trouble holding all of this terrain. But still, he's doing quite nicely in sort of disposing his forces. And again, as soon as Xelor ends up controlling the centre, he immediately pushes towards the north and again gains the map dominance. And again, thus, overall map dominance is determined by holding the centre. Also note here, he's actually now covering the waterway. Of course, an MG42 here is quite nasty. Even nastier is if he'd actually gone for Jaeger infantry, got an ambush, then this MG could really have been wreaking havoc, since then it had been the ambush bonus and troops and negative cover. But nicely done there by Stevo. Grenadiers, rifle grenading. Not really doing a lot though. Shame, shame.
The enemy is taking what we have secured.
Tank destroyer here. Tovarish. Squad standing by.
MG and Pack rather too temptingly placed alongside a nice line there. And there we go. Stevo seizing upon it. Finding away with the Katyusha rockets. Getting one of the Pack crewmen. And we immediately see here Xelor's forces immediately shifting about there. Not looking too well. And there we go, in fact the Pack crew gets wiped out. What a shame, larger forces being dispatched south to try and contain the madness of Stevo and the 10th Mechanized Corps. And that's another thing to note about Soviet designations. I mean, a Soviet Corps was nowhere near an equivalent of a German or basically Western Corps. That usually sort of was more how you describe a Soviet division. If it was mechanized or tank, then it was actually more equivalent to a German or, well, American division in terms of size and equipment. That was actually something that happened after the losses initially during Barbarossa. Tank divisions were scaled, everything in terms of tanks was scaled down, which basically meant all the designators were usually shifted down one side. So again, usually want to talk about something bigger if you want to talk about the equivalent amongst the West. There we go, rifle grenade actually doing quite nicely, and again, that's a slight weakness that hit the ground actually gives you. It makes you much easier and more susceptible to artillery. Also note here, he's actually using one of the H-85s to get focus sight, leaving the other one to get the more broader sight, but of course with this you can actually see much farther with your tank destroyer. Of course that is something you might of course also want to consider while playing against the Russians. And conscripts hitting the dirt, but they're simply getting overwhelmed by lots of German infantry. We see a Katyusha barrage going in return. Full retreat from the infantry, the MG42, the forages onwards. Looks like he wants to cover this approach. We also see Teller mines from Xelor. 3 MG42s up from Xelor. He absolutely loves those. And again, he's likely only doing this because, again, due to the considerably more choke point nature of the map. And again, I keep losing track of time. That's definitely a bit of a shame. So it's actually time for the mid-game analysis and time to return to Xelor. But let's have a look at the map again. We sort of note how things are looking here. We see here that Steve was pretty much on a line at the moment, going here from his base to the centre. A lot of it is centred around here. Lots of the assault guns, tank destroyers allowing him to cover this area and this area. Basically, again, making it very difficult for Xelor to do much. That's not to say Xelor can't do anything. There's this approach, and now this is actually quite open. In fact, again, but nothing from Xelor on that. We of course also note he's trying to cover every approach right here with an MG42, which of course means that if Steve-O wants to break through here, that way, or for that matter, that way, he's going to need a lot more armor and artillery, thus meaning of course again it's going to require a lot more effort and perhaps give some time for Xelor to get some defenses in there. And of course it also allows Xelor to focus more aggressively on this part of the map. The question is, can he get the resources to do it? He's going to need some armor, of course. He could go for some Panthers and basically just try and force his way through. It could work, but the nature of the map and plus the fact that already now there's at least 2 Su-85s means there can be laid down. Hang on, my tongue seems to be going absolutely bonkers. No, what I'm trying to say is they can lay down a lot of fire against an advancing opponent, in particular Panthers, since they do shoot faster than them, by the way. So there are some definite threats there for Xelor. I mean, his early strategy really hasn't helped him later into the game. For Steve-O, I mean, he wants to actually fortify this area. He wants to mine this path, so we also get some advantage. Of course, the Soviet infantry ability, now they got veteran ones as well, new ones, that is, they can lay down a small mine which fires off a flare. He might want that there so he can actually be alerted to get an idea of what's going on there if Xelor decides to attack through there. Because that's really currently the main threat that could be there, that Xelor tries to sneak in a force through there. Otherwise, Steve-O might want to consider getting a single more tank destroyer just in case again that Xelor tries to push for Panthers, and it's looking very more and more likely that will happen. That will likely be Xelor's last stage attempt, the Panther, schwere Panzer and all that. So of course that is something to consider, and again I really like the new tactical map. It's so much easier to tell things apart, and even the minimap here is considered more helpful. So I mean, that's some of all those things to consider there. I mean, overall his doctrine is helping him, and again he's got some pretty much good buildings here to sort of fight this map for him. So let's return to the fight. Let's return to Xelor, the 210th Infantrie Division versus the 10th Mechanized Corps. Conscripts here getting suppressed. Troops here reinforcing, getting healed. And there you go, the strategic movement. But oh, it hits the telemine! It hits the telemine! Engine absolutely damaged. But he can't finish it off. He can't finish it off. This allows the S73V0 to actually get out of there. And its gun is... it actually got wrecked as well. Oh dear. That's a bit of a shame. Bit of a shame that Xelor simply couldn't finish it off. MG crew shouting, what the fuck does hoorah mean, as the conscripts actually hoorah at it. And there we go, Molotov forcing the MG42 back. We do see that battle phase 3 has been tacked up, but he's not making any use of it now. He's actually floating a ton of resources. Xelor, get to it! And he's desperately trying to get the Su-76. But the MG42 won't cut it. And he really ought to know that. Conscripts running into lighter troubles.
You need something built?
And he's bringing up with the MG42 remaining there. And Panzertreks, he might try to sneak in there, of course, try and get them, but again, mines. Steve, of course, is constantly aware that this is a bit of a thing, and again, tries to cover it up with mines, and there we go, screening infantry from the Strafniki and their flamethrower. Though the Strafniki seems to be ignoring the Panzer Grenadiers. Then realizing, oh wait, those were Germans, and double on back. Pushing up here the Grenadiers, but without much support. Nothing serious. We see another mortar half out from Xelor. Five grenade goes off there, kills one poor MG gunner, but ultimately not enough. Penal troops double down there again. The gap is there from the much too aggressive MG use there from Xelor. Pack moving forward, but again going to rush straight into everything else. It's an absolute disaster from Xelor. An absolute mess. More Panzer Grenadiers arriving for Xelor. More troops in the 7th Panzer Division. More Molotovs going off. More troops retreating in the face of the Su-85s. And a smaller force sneaking about there. He's still not building anything. I mean, if he wants to go for tier 4, he really should get to building it as fast as possible. Now he's actually trying to do some harassment down here. And the mortar after here getting hit with a anti-tank grenade. He was still worried about the MG up there. Of course, he doesn't know that Steve doesn't have it anymore, so he basically risked his mortar after just to get an incendiary round down on that building. I'm not entirely sure what the Pioneers there were intending at all. Things are looking very ugly. The Panzers there took an absolute beating from the Veteran 2 conscripts, and they hit the dirt ability, and there we go. In fact, they gained Veterancy 3, giving Steve more honor. And other stuff here.
MG support standing by.
Conscripts pinned down. And there we go. SU-76 firing away. And another desperate push from a note here. You're actually hitting the dirt. It actually makes your troops harder to suppress as well, though of course they can't move at all.
Enemy is attempting to steal our sector.
So of course that is something to once more consider. The bun grenade here could possibly knock them out, but he doesn't have the munitions. And there we go, retreat.
Grenadiers standing by.
Not looking good at all for Xelor at the moment. And that was another MG crew wasted right there. I'm not entirely sure what that happened there. Probably another misclick like that initial mortar half-track, which suffered a tragic fate. Grenadiers sneaking through the water. Getting wet boots, most likely. No? And of course now the south has utterly collapsed again. Xelor going for one thing and then again deciding to play much more aggressively than his NGs actually allow him to. It's actually... It indicates a certain amount of desperation on Xelor, but it's just also odd. And of course he also lost his Panzer Grenadiers now. Repairing the mortar half-track. Hopefully seeing a longer life for it. Panzer's engaging the Strafniki there with their SVT-40s and a flamethrower. Veteran 2 making them that much more lethal. And a satchel charge. Panzer Grenadiers. And ow.
Enemy eliminated.
That was quite unpleasant. But of course it's not completely game over for Xelor, but he's definitely making it a lot harder for himself than he probably should be. Once more the Veterans of the 3 conscripts rush ahead. They immediately get suppressed and thus they can't actually hit the dirt. And there's a return to Stevo, who's got 3 Veterans of the 3 conscript squads with SMGs. That's an absolutely nasty combination there. As they get the tripwire flares, durability and accuracy.
Forces capturing supply sector.
I mean, this entire area's just been absolutely wrecked. I mean, no trains will be going through on those tracks anytime soon. And he's also got a Sturmovik attack prepared if necessary, which means he could absolutely, if things go absolutely sour, break up one of Xelor's attacks. So nasty fighting going on there.
Aim fire on this position.
And looks like Steve right there lost confidence.
Combat ready.
Your orders, comrade.
Whoops.
Enemy forces are capturing.
Though we do now see the heavy Panzer Corps up. Panzer's trying once more, but getting bombarded. Again, the SU-76 proving itself to be very unfriendly. Veterans of the 3 Grenadiers, finally some 3 infantry for Xelor and the 210th Infantrie Division. And a bit of training going on in the north.
Supply sector under attack.
Victory points are definitely ticking down though for Xelor. And another bound grenade. Gets the MG. Making things a bit easier.
They are shooting at us, Comrade Obvious. The enemy is down to 100 points.
And a report from the Stravniki that they are shooting at us, Comrade Obvious.
The enemy is taking what we
And there we
have
go, the conscripts pushing in from north against Xelor's forces are too dispersed to really handle this threat. And there we go, the Sturmwing attack moves in. Can you actually see it? There we go, barely noticing it. Sturmovik. Very heavily armoured aircraft. Nastily armoured as well. Conscripts here getting stopped by the MD and the veteran fleet conscripts. Oh no, the pack might get stopped right there. Oh, the pack gets killed! The Sturmovik shreds the crew and the gun itself. Conscripts here rushing straight up to the MD-42, but they might be in range for a Molotov. In fact, they are. No, they get pinned before it happens. Very lucky right there for Xelor. Very lucky. And what comes out? A Storm Panzer IV? I'm not entirely sure that what he needs. I mean, yes, it's sort of an assault gun, but mostly one for blowing up buildings and concentrated infantry. I mean, it's going to rather quickly get locked down by the S-85s. I think he needs Panthers at the moment. But there you go. Storm Panzer IV. The Brummbär I actually think was an allied designation. What the Germans usually called it was just Stupa. And a bit of incendiary rounds going in there. Hit there on the mortar half track. Sturmpanzer IV moving down to support the MG crew. Interesting.
Enemy squad attacking. I have them ready for action.
And these panzer gunners are running into a bit of a problem right there from Stevo's conscripts. Down to one man who might be catching on fire very soon if he doesn't leg it. And he legged it too late.
The enemy is encroaching on our territory.
But rather seems like Xelor's strategies are getting more desperate as it progresses on. Pushing up north, and another strafing run likely towards the north. There we go. Actually hit the penal triple step, but seems like friendly fire's not on for those things. Really seems like friendly fire's not on, otherwise these troops would have been shredded by their own pilots. Oh, that would have been fun. MD holding up the centre, but again, lots of veteran fleet conscripts, assault guns, tank destroyers providing support, Katyusha providing support, and veterans too, by the way, increasing damage and making it harder to damage. It looks like some counter battery fire towards the mortar, gaining at veterans 1, by the way. And looks like some pioneers. I have no idea what it is Xelor is trying to achieve those pioneers.
Losing territory.
It seems a bit daft.
Squad at full strength.
Yes, comrade. Yes. They've opened up on us. Objective secure. We will defend it to the death.
Mortar attack continues to fire. Nice little smoke effect going on, although a bit ruined by all the tear and deformation. But still, nice plume of smoke being knocked up every time it fires. Very nice to see that. Sturmpanzer IV running north to deal with those sneaky combat engineers.
Enemy is engaging us.
One would imagine.
Machine gun over.
And there we go. Kills one poor bastard.
Infantry has spotted us.
And there we go, H85 pretty much points out it's no further. And there we go, Panzer coming back and firm send in. 7th Panzer Division provides that as well
Supply sector.
to prop up the 210th Infantrie Division. Sturmpanzer looks to be moving up. Support needs to be careful though. MG here getting overwhelmed. Not looking good, not looking good.
The enemy has only 50 points remaining.
He could try and flank with a Panther here, getting the Su-85-76 first, while the Sturmpanzer takes up the centre, but needs to be careful, Immediately comes under fire from the Su-85, taking a bit of damage already. No, he's actually moving the Panther back. Instead of trying to flank. Oh dear, this is turning rather chaotic and could prove to be very disadvantageous for Xelor. Sturmpanzer fall already down to less than half health. Getting a few units, but ultimately not enough.
Ultimate sacrifice. 85, combat ready.
Panther rolling up. Misses! So does the Sturmpanzer 4. Main gun destroyed. That Sturmpanzer 4 is not going to be knocking anything out. Another Su-85 on the way for Stevo. As the Sturmpanzer gets knocked out, the Panther is next. Can it do the job? And pulling it back.
Our unit count is increasing. We are losing supplies to the enemy.
Grenadiers being rushed in. Panzer Grenadiers following up. Desperately trying to gain control of all 3 victory points. He is very much behind.
Supply sector under attack.
And again trying to cut off the munitions. And of course realizing at this stage he's probably in a lot of trouble. North falling to Soviet troops. Grenadiers here getting absolutely bombed the snot out of. Down to 1 Grenadier in fact. Xelor, I would consider retreating now. Very much consider retreating. And no. Desperate fighting as Xelor's forces are being utterly thinned out. Another Panzer Grenadier squad down, lost forever. The situation being very desperate now. Not very much helped on, and there you go. All the assault guns, all the tank destroyers are being rushed in to deal with that Panther now. Not entirely sure if it was a good idea to send the Su-76 first. And there we go, game over. Game over. Xelor gives up. 210th pulls back with whatever remains of the 7th Panzer Division reinforcements, and then 10th Mechanized Corps scores a victory and secures this river crossing. Overall, this game rather showed again what tank destroyers really can do for the Soviets. Again, they're quite powerful. They should not be underestimated. We saw, effective use of the Su-76 assault gun, used as artillery, perhaps also blowing up a few light vehicles, although here primarily as self-propelled artillery. We also saw again, what happens if you just try to play with heavy machine guns without supporting infantry. What happens if you just rushed for tier 3? Again, there were a lot of problems. It seemed like a company strategy, but not quite fully formed. And it lacked, because again he was trying to hold ground, but then he also tried to play too aggressively. It was a conflicting set of strategies, approaches that Xelor tried to do. He overextended and ultimately he lost because of that. He was constantly trying to do too much. He constantly was overreaching. Had he played more conservatively, which he should have done with that sort of initial build order, he might have been standing a bit better, but ultimately he allowed Stevo to basically dominate the map for a longer period of time. He feeded him a lot of veterans. I mean, we're seeing 3 veteran-free conscript squads. That's bad news. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed this match. Hope you learned something from it. If you did, why not subscribe? Tell your friends. Share it everywhere. If you didn't, well, why not replay the end? Provide some feedback in the comments. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, whatever. This is Imperial Aim saying cheers.